The air hung thick and heavy, a damp shroud clinging to my skin as I descended the concrete steps. Each footfall echoed into the abyss, the sound swallowed by the suffocating silence of the earth. Above, the world was vibrant with the hues of autumn, leaves ablaze in fiery reds and golds. Here, only a monochrome palette of gray and decay reigned. The rusted metal door, a gaping maw in the hillside, seemed to exhale a breath of forgotten time, a chilling whisper promising stories untold. I paused, the metallic tang of old blood and damp earth filling my nostrils, a primal scent that both repelled and beckoned. The beam of my flashlight cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing a corridor that stretched into the unknown, a concrete artery leading to the heart of a forgotten war. A single, withered leaf, somehow carried into this subterranean tomb, lay pressed against the cold floor, a fragile reminder of the life that continued to flourish above, oblivious to the secrets buried beneath. It felt like stepping into a dream, or perhaps a nightmare, where the boundaries between reality and memory blurred. The silence was broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water, each drop a tiny hammer blow against the stillness. It was a sound that spoke of slow, relentless decay, of time eroding stone and steel. The beam of my flashlight danced across the walls, illuminating graffiti scrawled in hurried hand, faded portraits of pin-up girls, and cryptic messages that hinted at lives lived in the shadow of fear. A child's drawing, a crayon rendering of a soldier holding a rifle, clung precariously to the wall, its colors muted by the passage of years. It was a ghost of innocence, a stark contrast to the grim reality of this place. I imagined the soldier who drew it, a young man perhaps, dreaming of home, of a life beyond these concrete walls. What became of him? Did he ever see the sun again? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, adding to the weight of the silence. A wave of melancholy washed over me, a profound sense of loss for lives I never knew, for a past I could only imagine. The bunker felt like a tomb, a final resting place for memories and dreams. It was a place of echoes, where the whispers of the past lingered in the air, waiting to be heard. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. This wasn't just an abandoned military bunker, it was a portal to another time, a place where the human spirit had been tested and scarred. And I was determined to listen to its stories. My grandfather never spoke much about the war. He'd sit in his worn armchair, his gaze fixed on some distant point, a 1,000-yard stare etched into his weathered face. He'd puff on his pipe, the sweet aroma of tobacco filling the room, a comforting scent that somehow failed to mask the underlying sadness in his eyes. He was a man of few words, his emotions buried deep beneath a stoic exterior. But sometimes, late at night, after a few glasses of whiskey, the dam would break. He'd tell stories, fragments of memories, snippets of battles and comrades, tales of bravery and loss. They were never complete narratives, just glimpses into a world of unimaginable horror. And then, just as quickly, the dam would close, the silence returning, heavier than before. He served in the Pacific, a world away from the concrete chill of this European bunker. But there was a universality to his experience, a shared understanding of the human cost of war that transcended geography and time. He understood the fear, the isolation, the camaraderie forged in the crucible of combat. He understood the burden of memory, the weight of the past that could never be fully shed. I remember once, when I was a boy, I asked him if he was a hero. He looked at me with those sad eyes and said, "There are no heroes in war, son. Only survivors." His words have stayed with me, echoing in my mind as I stand here, in this forgotten place. He never wanted me to follow in his footsteps. He wanted me to live a life of peace, a life free from the shadows of war. He wanted me to appreciate the simple things, the beauty of nature, the warmth of human connection. He wanted me to understand the value of life, a lesson he learned the hard way. And yet, here I am, drawn to the darkness, seeking to understand the experiences that shaped him, the events that haunted his dreams. I'm not sure why I'm here, what I hope to find. Perhaps it's a way to connect with him, to understand him on a deeper level. Perhaps it's a way to honor his memory, to ensure that his sacrifices, and the sacrifices of all those who served, are not forgotten. Or perhaps it's simply a morbid curiosity, a fascination with the macabre. Whatever the reason, I'm here now, standing on the threshold of the unknown, ready to face the ghosts of the past. And I know, somehow, that he's here with me, guiding me through the darkness, whispering his stories in my ear. The generator must continue the story in a way that both respects the previous narrative and delivers a compelling climax and its consequences. Title: Inside an Abandoned Military Bunker, What Soldiers Left Behind. Hashtag Step 1, Setup, Premonition and Discovery **** Block 1 **** Dust motes danced in the single beam of Elias's flashlight, a silent disco in the tomb-like air. The steel door, pried open with a grunt of rusty protest, had sealed this place off for decades. Now, it exhaled secrets, a musty breath of forgotten wars and phantom anxieties. Elias, a man haunted by history both inherited and witnessed, felt a familiar pull, a morbid curiosity that both terrified and compelled him. He adjusted the worn strap of his camera bag, the leather creaking like an old man's bones. Beside him, Sarah shivered, though the air was stagnant, not cold. "Are you sure about this, Eli?" Her voice, usually bright and confident, was a hushed whisper. He offered a weak smile, more grimace than reassurance. "Positive. Besides, you know I can't resist a good mystery, especially one buried beneath tons of concrete and government secrecy." Sarah remained unconvinced. He knew her reluctance wasn't born of fear for her own safety. It was fear for him. She'd seen the ghosts he carried, the way they clawed at him in the night, leaving him gasping and sweating. Places like this, steeped in the residue of human suffering, only amplified them. The bunker stretched before them, a concrete artery leading into the earth's dark heart. Graffiti, faded and peeling, adorned the walls, crude drawings of pin-up girls, slogans of defiance, and the names of men long turned to dust. Each inscription was a whisper from the past, a fleeting glimpse into the lives of those who had once called this place home. Elias raised his camera, the click of the shutter echoing in the oppressive silence. He was a collector of forgotten moments, a chronicler of decay. He wanted to understand, to somehow piece together the fragments of shattered lives. Block 2 * deeper inside, they found the living quarters. Bunk beds, 3 tiers high, lined the walls, their mattresses rotted and stained. Footlockers, some open, some still stubbornly locked, hinted at the personal belongings left behind in haste. A half-finished letter lay on one bunk, the ink blurred by moisture. "Mom, don't worry about me. Everything's fine here. We're just—" The sentence ended abruptly, swallowed by the silence of decades. Elias carefully photographed it, his heart clenching with a familiar ache. He imagined the young man who had penned those words, his hopes and fears, his longing for home. What had become of him? Had he ever returned to his mother's embrace? In the mess hall, rusted trays and utensils lay scattered across the tables, as if the occupants had vanished mid-meal. A calendar on the wall was frozen on July 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis. The air crackled with the tension of a world on the brink. Elias could almost hear the frantic chatter, the nervous laughter, the unspoken fear that hung heavy in the air. He picked up a faded photograph from the floor. It showed a group of soldiers, young and grinning, their arms slung around each other's shoulders. They looked so full of life, so oblivious to the potential for annihilation that loomed over them. Sarah touched his arm, her fingers light but firm. "Eli, maybe we should go. This place, it's getting to you." He knew she was right. The weight of the past was pressing down on him, suffocating him. But he couldn't leave. Not yet. He had to see it through. He had to understand. "Just a little longer," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I need to see the command center. The heart of the bunker. The place where decisions were made that could have changed the course of history." He felt an irresistible pull, a dark gravity drawing him towards the unknown. He continued deeper into the bunker's bowels. Block 3 * the command center was colder, the air thicker with a sense of dread. Banks of obsolete equipment lined the walls, their dials frozen in time. Maps, depicting potential targets and projected fallout zones, were plastered across the far wall, a chilling reminder of the stakes involved. In the center of the room, a large table stood beneath a single, bare bulb that flickered erratically, casting long, dancing shadows. On the table, a single object lay bathed in the harsh light, a red telephone. The infamous hotline. Elias felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He knew, intellectually, that this was just a room, just a collection of inanimate objects. But the atmosphere was charged, heavy with the weight of decisions made, of lives hanging in the balance. He imagined the frantic conversations that had taken place here, the strained voices, the desperate pleas for reason. He could almost hear the echo of the world holding its breath. He reached out, his hand trembling, and picked up the receiver. It was surprisingly heavy, cold against his skin. He brought it to his ear, half expecting to hear static, or a ghostly voice from the past. But there was only silence. A profound, deafening silence that spoke volumes. He closed his eyes, trying to block out the images that were flooding his mind: mushroom clouds, burning cities, the annihilation of everything he held dear. Suddenly, a piercing alarm shrieked through the bunker, shattering the silence. Sarah screamed, clutching at Elias's arm. He dropped the phone, his heart pounding in his chest. The alarm was deafening, relentless, filling the space with a cacophony of noise. It was a primal scream, a warning from the past, a reminder of the fragility of existence. He scanned the room, trying to locate the source of the alarm. It was coming from a panel on the wall, a series of lights flashing urgently. He didn't understand what it meant, but he knew, instinctively, that it was bad. Very bad. He grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her towards the exit, his mind racing. They had to get out of here. Now. As they stumbled back through the corridors, the alarm continued to blare, echoing through the concrete tunnels. The air grew thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. Elias felt a sharp pain in his chest, a familiar tightening that he knew all too well. Panic clawed at him, threatening to overwhelm him. He had to stay calm. He had to get Sarah out. He pushed forward, his legs burning, his lungs aching. The bunker seemed to be closing in on them, suffocating them. Block 4 *. The sunlight was blinding when they finally emerged from the steel maw of the entrance. Elias gasped for air, his lungs burning. He stumbled, his legs weak, and Sarah helped him to sit down on a nearby rock. The alarm continued to wail from within the bunker, a persistent, maddening drone. He closed his eyes, trying to regain his composure. The world spun around him, a dizzying kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. He felt Sarah's hand on his back, rubbing gently. He knew she was terrified, but she was trying to be strong for him. He opened his eyes and looked at her, his heart filled with gratitude. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice hoarse. "I didn't mean to scare you like that." Sarah shook her head. "It's not your fault. This place, it's evil. It feeds on fear." He knew she was right. The bunker had amplified his anxieties, his deepest fears. It had brought him face to face with the darkness that lurked within him. He looked back at the steel door, its rusted surface glinting in the sunlight. He knew he could never go back there. Not ever. Years later, the memory of that day still haunted him. The piercing alarm, the oppressive silence, the weight of the past, they were all etched into his mind, indelible scars on his soul. He still had nightmares, vivid dreams of mushroom clouds and burning cities. He tried to forget, to bury the memories deep within him, but they always resurfaced, unbidden, at the most unexpected moments. He continued to explore abandoned places, to document the remnants of forgotten lives. But he was more cautious now, more aware of the potential for harm. He knew that some places were best left undisturbed, that some secrets were better left buried. He carried the weight of the bunker with him, a constant reminder of the fragility of life, the destructive power of fear, and the enduring legacy of the past. And sometimes, late at night, when the world was quiet, he could still hear the faint echo of that piercing alarm, a chilling reminder of the day he almost lost himself in the heart of the darkness. The final chamber opened into a vast, echoing space, the air thick with the scent of decay and something else, something akin to burnt metal and ozone. Dominating the room was a colossal machine, a lattice of copper wiring and vacuum tubes humming with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. It pulsed with a soft, ethereal light, casting long, dancing shadows that writhed across the walls. This wasn't just a bunker, it was a cage for something unimaginable. Scattered around the base of the machine were the skeletal remains of the soldiers. Not neatly arranged, but strewn about, contorted in postures of terror and agony. Their uniforms were tattered, their bones bleached white, and clutched in the hand of one was a tarnished silver locket. I knelt, my hand trembling as I brushed away the dust. Inside, a faded photograph, a young woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Inscribed on the back, barely legible, were the words, "Always, my love, always." A wave of nausea washed over me, the weight of their final moments pressing down. They weren't guarding a weapon, they were containing it. This machine, it wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to bind. But bind what? A low hum resonated from the machine, growing in intensity. The air crackled with static electricity, raising the hairs on my arms. I felt a presence, an immense, formless consciousness that brushed against my mind like a cold wind. Images flooded my senses, swirling chaos, starless voids, and faces twisted in eternal torment. It was a glimpse into something beyond comprehension, something that existed outside the boundaries of reality. Then, a voice, not audible, but directly imprinted into my consciousness, resonated with the sorrow of ages. We failed. The machine shuddered, its light flickering erratically. One of the vacuum tubes shattered, sending a shower of sparks across the floor. The presence intensified, pressing harder, demanding release. I understood. The soldiers hadn't died fighting an enemy. They had sacrificed themselves to hold back something that should never have been unleashed. This machine was their final stand, their last act of defiance against the encroaching darkness. The silver locket felt heavy in my hand, a tangible link to the humanity they were fighting to protect. I closed my eyes, focusing on the image of the woman in the photograph, on her gentle smile, on the love that had sustained them in their darkest hour. That love, it was a beacon, a shield against the encroaching void. I would not let their sacrifice be in vain. Opening my eyes, I knew what I had to do. Reaching into my pack, I pulled out the antique compass, the one I had found clutched in my grandfather's hand, the one that had led me here. Its needle spun wildly, no longer pointing north, but vibrating with an energy that mirrored the machine's. It was a key, a conduit. Holding it aloft, I focused all my will, all my energy, on the image of the woman, on the enduring power of love and hope. The compass glowed with an intense, white light, and a beam of pure energy shot forth, striking the heart of the machine. The room erupted in a blinding flash. When my vision cleared, the machine was silent, inert. The presence was gone, banished back to the abyss from whence it came. The skeletal remains of the soldiers seemed to relax, their postures of agony softening into something resembling peace. The air was still, the silence profound. I stood there for a long time, the weight of their sacrifice pressing down on me. They were gone, but their memory, their courage would live on. Turning, I walked back through the labyrinthine corridors, leaving the bunker behind. As I emerged into the sunlight, the world seemed brighter, more vibrant than before. The birds sang, the wind whispered through the trees, and the sky stretched endlessly above. I carried their story with me, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of reality, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome it. I knew then that my journey wasn't just about finding a place, it was about finding a purpose. And that purpose was to remember, to honor, and to protect the light that shines within us all. The compass, now still and silent, rested in my pocket, a constant reminder of the soldiers, the woman in the photograph, and the enduring power of love in the face of oblivion. The war was over, but the memory would live on.